Alrighty, so in this episode we're going to be installing a new fuel pump, a Walbro 255. So anyway, let's get straight into it. So to start off, we want to pull the fuel pump fuse out of the car before you start anything. So remove that fuse, still good. So you pull that out, and that's the first step done. Then next step is prime the car, like so. Or try and start the car, I should say, so that you sort of use all the remaining fuel. And then next you come over to the rear of the car and undo the fuel pump sort of encasing. So yeah, I believe this is 10mm 10mm socket to get these off. And on my car I had that bolt was buggered, so it didn't matter for what I was doing here, but I played around with it anyway. So yeah, then to get the other cover off, you need to use a screwdriver. Get those off. It's pretty easy, and that'll let you see the switch, or the plug, I should say. So now those are all off. Pull the cover off. Reveals the plug there, and then this one is fuel pump. So very nice. So first you just disconnect a plug, like so. A little bit hard with one hand, so chuck the camera down and unplug it, like so. Then you can just pull that out of the way, and that's nice and juicy. So now you can see the fuel pump there, and it's that inner tank housing holds on to some other stuff. Just giving it a quick wipe down. Quick little wipe down. Sort of don't want any dirt debris sort of getting in the car. This one's quite dirty, but it's sort of hard, stuck on dirt, so I think it'll be alright for now, but it's always a good idea to give it a good clean out. Because you don't want that dirt and debris going into your fuel, making your dirtying up your fuel filter. So get as much dirt out of there as possible. Now we've got two fuel hoses there. So now we've got to get that off, and so one of them is a screw and the other one is just a sort of normal clamp to get that done. So I'm using a little precision screwdriver there that I use on computers and stuff, real tiny one. That seemed to have done the job quite nicely. Little tiny thing there. And yeah, so make sure you remember which fuel hose goes to where. So make sure you remember left or right, which the correct one is. So I can just slip that one off. And yeah, so it helps that the hose clamps are different, so they would have left a indent in the actual hose, so you can definitely tell which one, as long as you sort of take a photo or write it down or something. So this one's giving me a little bit more issues than the other clamp, but I thought I'd chuck it in there anyway for your viewing pleasure. Bit hard with one hand, but we get there in the end. And these hoses probably 30 years old, so they're not going to come off easy. So we've got an 8mm socket here, so it's 8mm to get all these ones done. I think I was just cracking all these off. Yep. So I'm just pointing to all the locations of the actual bolts there. Just using an 8mm socket to get those bad boys off. And then once you take that fuel hose off, those two fuel hoses off, that whole cap will come out with the fuel pump assembly attached to it. So got to be prepared. A lot of fuel and shit's going to come out when you pull that that lid off. So a good idea is to just hold it there for a few seconds after you lift it off, and that will get rid of a lot of excess fuel that's on the filters and stuff. But anyway, so to get the hoses off now, using a little pick, little toothpick, little metal pick, and just getting under the hose, sort of breaking the seal a little bit. You know, these are 30-year-old hoses, so they're quite old. Yeah, so you sort of just get your pick under there, and then you run it around until that seal's sort of broken, and this will help you get the hose off. These hoses were particularly tough, so then you can just get your pliers in there and just give it a little wiggle, and that'll help as well to getting those fuel hoses off. But definitely not something easy. Definitely not easy to get these off. And here I'm just trying to sort of wiggle them free with not much success, but now this one's free, so you can use a technique I'm using here to sort of grab it on the edge and sort of push while holding it and wiggling it. You can sort of push it in this sort of angle. Very hard with one hand, might I add, but don't have a tripod or anything here, so gotta make do with what you have. But this one's pretty much off now, the left one. Just the last little nub to get off now. And I've just sort of cut because it's easier to do with two hands. And those two hoses are off. So now we should be free to pull the fuel pump assembly out, nice and carefully, as to not drop any dirt and debris into your fuel tank if possible. And right here it was a bit too hard to do with one hand, so I had to chuck a camera down. And yeah, so here is the fuel pump assembly coming out now. So I'm just letting the fuel drain a little bit, and yeah, because it's quite heavy. Here we go, we have the fuel pump assembly out and on a rag. So you can see the fuel pump there connecting to a hose that goes up, and the little filter there. And here's my new one, Walbro 255, quite a lot smaller than the original. And so now I've just laid out all the components here that I've got with the kit that I bought from Car Mods Australia. Pretty good little kit, didn't pay too much for it, which is nice. Nice little fresh filter there. And yeah, bunch of parts. So you can see here, got a little thing on there, which is nice. Little filter, so you chuck the filter on first, as per the manufacturer instructions. And then you chuck that little clip on, little sort of washer. And I used a 5mm here, but I think a 4mm socket will be better for actually getting that on there. But anyway, up to the top we have power for the fuel pump. So I've just snipped the wires, because now you got to do some wiring to wire up your actual fuel pump. So not quite sure where we've gone here, but we've wired it all up now. Or simple as just sort of putting the wires together and hooking it all up following the manufacturer instructions. But yeah, so now it's all back in. Alright, so we got our new Z201 fuel filter for Sylvia. Was going to go 202, but thought I might as well just go 201 because it was a bit cheaper. So yeah, this is the fuel filter here. This is the out. I don't know if you can see that. Out. So yeah, so that's the out. So I'm guessing that's the flow rate up into here, into the old
fuel rail there, down there. So yeah, so we'll get that going. Unclip this. This is just a hose clamp here and hose clamp down there. That should pop off, and install a new one. So yeah, then you just take it off. A little bit of fuel might come out, but that's alright. I think it's a two-hand job. So yeah, pull that off. See, it's dripping a little bit of petrol. Might just let that drip. Can't really put it anywhere else for the moment. And then you get a little trick you can do. Get the old cap from the other one. Chuck that on top. And that'll keep it from spilling everywhere, hopefully. Seems pretty decent, but not the greatest. And then I'll try and get that bottom one off. Alright, so that was the old one. You can see a bit of fuel down there. So now we've just got to loosen that up a little bit more. Chuck this back in. And that's... I like to write the K interval that I've changed the fuel filter at. Old Ryko Z201. And yeah, so we'll put it in like that. And it should be good to go. So I got that one in and tightened down. So now we'll chuck this on top. And she should be good to go. Yep, two-hand job. So yeah, all plugged up, back up now. Might give that a tighten because it was a bit loose. But yeah, lovely. That's a new fuel filter in. So now we're ready to go. Got the fuel fuse back in, so just ready to get cranked over, and then we'll check for leaks.